So people who earlier had absolutely no access to the information around them or being able to live independently can use all the advances that have happened in the AI space over the last 18 months to give voice to the voiceless, to give sight to people who can't see. And so it's been incredible, and I think this is going to be probably the greatest thing that's ever happened to humanity, and especially from an accessibility point of view.
Wow, that's a bold statement. Karthik Kannan, welcome back to the See-Through podcast. It's been about 2 years, but I'm happy to see you.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me once again, Lance. And last time I was here, I had a great time talking. The podcast was quite a big deal amongst our community. So, I'm happy to be here 2 years later. Still great to see you doing amazing. So super excited to be back.
Yeah, likewise, man. 2 years is a long time, and a lot can happen, especially in the technology space. Last time we talked, AI was kind of nowhere close to where it is now. ChatGPT wasn't even around. So now you have a lot more to play around with. And I think that's why you're coming back on to kind of give everyone an update about what's new with Envision and how some of this new technology that has came out and developed over the last few years has kind of changed your product, and it's kind of changing the landscape for Envision and accessible tech. So I'll let you take it from there, and let's get this conversation going, because there's a lot to cover.
Sure. Like you said, 2 years ago, AI was still a thing that only nerds were mostly concerned with. Nerds and, probably, filmmakers who just wanted to make something talking about doomsday AI. So I think AI was really in the fringes. It was something that people either ignored or people thought was absolutely the worst thing that could happen to humanity, and it was at least 20, 30 years away. I was watching this panel of AI experts from back in 2021. And they all were asked, how long before you can have a conversation with an AI? And everyone was giving 10 years and 15 years and 20 years. And then ChatGPT literally drops, 10 months from that conversation. So the world just, changed a lot. And like you said, so much of it has actually really impacted accessibility for the better. I think a lot of people are legitimately, afraid of what AI's impact is going to be on society as a whole, a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. But I think the one area that it's going to change everything for is accessibility, right? How can, so people who earlier had absolutely no access to the information around them or being able to live independently, all of a sudden can use large language models to communicate, can use all the advances that have happened in the AI space over the last 18 months to give voice to the voiceless, to give sight to people who can't see, and so it's been incredible. And I think this is going to be probably the greatest thing that's ever happened to humanity, and especially from an accessibility point of view.
Wow, that's a bold statement. The greatest thing to happen to humanity. I'm excited to talk to you specifically about Envision, but also some sort of broader subject matter. Mm-hmm. But I think let's start with Envision. Let's talk about your products, guys. I know you have the Envision glasses, which we talked about last episode, and you also have the application. Yeah. Both have similar usages, but are, have differences as well. So I'd like to kind of get into both of those products and how to obtain them and what you could use them both for and who would benefit from them. Sure.
So Envision is basically a company that builds tools for people with a visual impairment so they can live more independently. Predominantly, we do this using artificial intelligence, AI, right? Essentially, Envision builds the Envision smart glasses, which is a pair of glasses that look like any other pair of sunglasses. And the main thing the glasses do is they capture images of things around people and they speak it out to them and convert them into audio. So the glasses have a camera on them, it has a speaker, and it has these really powerful AI processors that can process, the visual information around a visually impaired person. So a visually impaired person could be at a train station and they could read what's on the display. They could be sitting at a restaurant. They could read what's on the menu, right? Or they could be going out and they could say, hey, can you tell me what's around me? And they can get a description of what's around them. Similarly, you could use it to detect an empty chair at a subway. For example, if you just ask Envision to say, hey, can you find me an empty chair in this room? The glasses will be able to guide you to an empty chair. And similarly, you could also do that with people. And you could basically teach Envision faces of your friends or family members. And you could ask the glasses to say, hey, can you find Lance for me in the room? And it would go ahead and guide you, to Lance. So there's a lot of these kind of things the glasses do. And apart from all of the AI stuff, you can make video calls directly from these glasses to a friend or a family member. We've partnered with a whole bunch of companies building apps for people who are blind or low vision, and then brought them onto the glasses as well. And it's essentially an all-in-one, Swiss Army knife kind of a tool that can help a blind or low vision person just go about their life more independently. We initially started off Envision with an app. When we started the company back in 2017, smart glasses were unheard of. I still think today that people don't know about them largely. If you tell them about the Google Glass or, the Apple Vision Pro, people who are slightly tech savvy get it. But this was not even the case back in 2017. And so when we started the company, we thought, wait, every blind person out there already uses a smartphone. So let's start off with a smartphone app. And so Envision app came out first, which does a lot of things what the glasses does. But the main difference is that, if you're a blind or low vision person, holding a phone in one hand and a cane or a guide dog in the other hand isn't the best possible experience. Because you're holding this thing in your hand, your phone in your hand, you're holding the cane or a guide dog, and you're just pointing around with a phone. And that's not the greatest, that's not the best possible experience, right? So that's when we started to look at alternatives for the app, especially, wearable cameras or wearable devices. And in 2019, Envision won the Google Play Award for the best accessibility experience. And so I got a chance to go to, Google's headquarters in California. And I just used the award as an excuse to just shop around and ask folks at Google, hey, can you just, the award was basically like an entry ticket, into Google's offices and say, hey, we're building this cool thing. Is there something that you're doing, in the wearable space? We'd like to put our software on it. And they took me to a room and they gave me like 20 NDAs to sign. I still don't know what they exactly were in the NDAs, but I signed them and they said, hey, we've been working on a new hardware. We're trying to reboot the Google Glass. And this time, instead of selling it to consumers, we're going to be selling it to businesses. And, but we think you're doing something very interesting. And so we will give you the option to, put your software on these glasses and then sell them directly to consumers. And so Envision is the only company in the world today that can actually sell these Google glasses to consumers. You can't buy them anywhere else in the world, right? So wow. That's how the Envision glasses came into being. And yeah, like the last 24 months has been an absolute, like roller coaster of a ride. I think any company that's seriously building AI products out there has their lives change entirely and for the better. I think it's been the same for Envision as well.
Yeah, I mean, what an honor, what a big deal that is. Because I remember when the Google Glasses came out, and there was kind of controversy about how they would be used in the public, the consumers, that you're talking about. So it's interesting that they took that approach, and it's amazing that you were able to kind of get in and use that opportunity and have such a big partnership happen. And now you have access to, support and the help of Google, which is huge. And talking about the glasses itself, last time we talked, there was like one style that was available, and now you have like some multiple styles, because they the new ones look very sharp. They're kind of stylish,
Yeah.
How has the process been, working with that and factoring in like how the camera looks and the glass frames,
Yeah. I think a lot has changed over the last, couple of years itself, at least in terms of the options that consumers have. We introduced two different versions of the glasses. One that only has, the reading capabilities of the glasses, that's priced cheaper than the standard edition, which allows, more users to be able to buy the glasses at a cheaper price and use it primarily for reading, if that's what they want to do. And then, we've got a professional edition where they get two different types of frames, and so on. And so, yeah, we did work a lot with Google, and we worked also with Luxottica, this Italian, manufacturer. They manufacture Ray-Ban glasses and so on and so forth. And so we kind of partnered with them as well. And we've got, their own, frames as well that go along with the glasses. So there are like multiple frames where we have one that's got a leopard print on it if you're really, that kind of a fashion person. Or it's got like a...
Those would be the ones I would get, the leopard print.
Yeah. I had the leopard print one for the longest time, and then I started pitching to investors, and they started giving me looks. So I switched over to the really sleek, black and white, somewhat transparent frame. So we've got a lot of new designs. I think that's undergone a lot of change. But I feel what's really also like changed a lot is how many more apps now we've got on the glasses. So when we last talked, a couple of years ago, Envision was primarily a company just building a product. And today Envision is a company that's building a platform where we've got almost close to half a dozen apps apart from the Envision app itself on the Envision glasses. So when a blind or low vision person makes a purchase of a pair of Envision glasses, they not just get Envision software, they get an ecosystem of apps that they can download and use. And almost all of them have some kind of a partnership with us that allows us to give maybe a free trial of their software to people using the glasses and so on. So I think that's also changed a lot with regards to how the glasses work.
Yeah. I watched a very helpful video that Sam Seavey from The Blind Life, his YouTube channel, he made a video reviewing the Envision glasses, and I'll put a link to that in the show description if anyone listening wants to see how they work in real life, because Sam in the video, he goes out in his town and kind of uses them, and it kind of shows and displays how powerful the tech can be at describing what it sees. But basically, yeah, these glasses are stylish looking. They have a camera on the side, and that camera will feed information to basically from the images the camera is seeing will feed back speech to text, basically, right? Or text to speech, I guess.
Yeah.
Which allows people to kind of know what's going on around them if they are low vision. And then the app has similar features where you can use the camera on your phone. And like you said, the glasses are not free. Obviously, you have to purchase the glasses. And then, like you said, the benefit of that is you get the ecosystem that comes with it, and the glasses kind of integrate into the app really well.
Yeah.
But the app itself is free if you wanted to check that out, because it uses the camera on your phone, right?
Yeah, it uses the camera on your phone, and it is completely free, and it's always going to be free. It's also not an app where, we have it for free and it's some kind of a weird marketing tool, blah, blah, blah. It does, help us raise awareness about the Envision glasses and Envision as a whole, but it is a very, very serious product that, we put enough, we put equal focus on as much as the glasses is, because I think, one of the main reasons why the Envision app exists and why it's free is, a lot of folks in different parts of the world still can't afford a pair of glasses. I think a pair of glasses cost $24.99. And in many countries like the US or Europe or, Australia, Japan, so all of these different countries, the glasses are fully supported by insurance. They're supported by, a whole bunch of, I would say, options for people to buy them. So in Europe, for example, they're fully reimbursed by the government. In all countries, in the US, you can go ahead to go to the Department of Rehabilitation or a Veterans Association, a VA network, and go ahead and request a pair of glasses, and you can get them for free. But in countries like India or countries within Africa or the Middle East, these glasses are still quite expensive for the average blind person. And I think one of the big missions, of course, Envision's a for-profit company, but one of the biggest missions that we have had from the beginning was to try and make this thing available to as many people as possible. I think AI is still very, very it's in the hands of very few people today. People, the ones who really control the direction of AI and the ones who use AI are people who can drop $20 per month on a Chat GPT subscription, for example, right? But the vast majority of the blind and low vision community can't do that. And I think what the key mission for Envision has always been to take AI and democratize it for people who are blind and low vision so they can live more independently. And that's what the app allows us to do. And the beauty of it all today is that open source AI allows us to do that. It's almost as good as, proprietary AI from companies like OpenAI or Google. And just using open source AI, we're able to deliver something that's almost, costs us nothing to build and push out, except for a lot of R&D. And I think that's an amazing, I would say, aspect of living in these times, that open source is just as good and can actually make a big impact.
Yeah, and for those listening or watching who are not quite sure what open source is basically you're able to, the code is public, right? You can access the code publicly. That way you can change it yourself. Whereas if it's not open source, it's kind of privatized and it's kind of like essentially like copyrighted and trademarked, and you can't really alter it. Is that how you would describe it?
Yeah. Open source is basically like, it's like you can, it's like, I would say like a stencil. You can basically buy a stencil and you can draw your own, figure around it. You can give it your own color. There's really no limitations to how much you can remix open source, right? So it's easily remixable, whereas, closed source or proprietary, AI is AI that's, guarded behind a paywall. Right. So if you have to use it, you basically pay the company that's built it every time you make a call to that AI, right? So I send an image to the AI, I pay some money, and then I get something back from the AI, I pay, some money for that as well. And, this whole back and forth stuff, is where I pay. With open source, that's still there. Because you still have to put these big AI models somewhere in the cloud, and you still pay for the cloud. But then if you get clever and if you're inventive enough, you can find ways around trying to minimize the cost so that, your end, operating cost of like running the app or whatever you're building is as low as possible, right? So just having the ability to remix stuff in your own way and put it out there, through clever engineering tricks at a cheaper cost, really makes a huge difference for a company like us.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. The only reason I know anything about open source was I worked for the company Red Hat for like a year. Yeah. And I was doing some video stuff for them. Great company, great people there. Shout out to Red Hat. But yeah, let's talk about the app. What features are available on the app that are not available, or like what can you do via the app? Sure.
So I think the biggest, I would say, the plus of the app is it's able to read text really, really well. It's able to read pretty much any file format you can throw at it. It's able to read a text file, a HTML file, a PDF file, a document or an EPUB or a Word file, right? So just think of any file format, the app is able to read it. You can import those files into the Envision app on your phone, and you can read it. And that is a huge deal, because if you look at most of the documents that you get as an attachment, a PDF document, for example, right? They're not very accessible. Let's take your average, utility bill, right? When you see a utility bill, it's got a table with some figures, and it's probably got these little, it's structured in a way that it's not easy for software to read, regular software to read, right? And it's essentially completely inaccessible to a blind or a low vision person. But now what they could do with the Envision app is they can just import that bill into the Envision app from their email, and then just, have the Envision app go through the whole thing for them, understand, oh, this is a table and it's got figures in them, and so on and so forth, and then present it to, in a way that a blind person can easily read or scroll through that information, right? So I think that is what the Envision app does. It's basically a pair of eyes that, just like how you have a pair of eyes and you can scroll through information really quickly, you can go ahead and use the Envision app as a pair of eyes to scroll through digital documents. That's something that's very unique. Second thing that's very unique about it is that not only can you scroll through the documents, you can go ahead and ask it to help you find specific bits of information in a document you scanned. So again, it's like how you think of something like, oh, wait, I want to know what the total amount on this bill is. And your eyes immediately zero in on the total amount, right? That's exactly what the Envision app does for a blind person. You can just zero in on any information you want. And you can just ask it in natural language, like how you have a conversation with someone, right? So that's something that you could do with the Envision app. And not just for, a 1-page document or a 2-page document, you could do that with a 2000-page PDF, for example. You could import an entire textbook into the Envision app, and people do that today. People import textbooks in the Envision app and ask it to give a summary of the first chapter, or ask it for specific information, or can you explain this concept to me, right? Jump to this particular topic and read about it. So that stuff, again, is science fiction. The last time we spoke, I really thought it was going to happen like 5-10 years down the line. I had no idea that we could do this in the next 2 years. And today, people are doing it. There are lots of blind and low vision, kids in India who are studying for exams using the Envision app in just the way I told you about.
That's beautiful. And it's very exciting how fast it's happening. So let me make sure I got this right. So you can, through the Envision app, which is free, you can just download it in the App Store.
Yeah.
And is it available on Droid and Apple?
Yes, it's available on Android and Apple, and it's available on any Android device that's running Android 6 and above, which is an operating system that came out almost 10 years ago. So you could install it on a $30 smartphone, and you would have the Envision app work for you. And again, that's really by design, by choice, that we decide to support apps in phones that are low cost or have been released a long time ago.
I respect that a lot. Because it's always annoying. I get tired, and I'm I'm an Apple guy. Like, I have a lot of Apple products, but when I hear about how it's only available for Apple, I'm like, well, that's kind of lame, because what if somebody who has an Android wants to use it, or like you said, an older phone, or maybe a more inexpensive phone? I think that app should be available to anyone who has a device that can handle it.
Exactly.
So you download it. And then there's a lot of features in it, but what you're describing is you can upload documents, so PDF files or whatever it is, into the app, and it'll basically take that, it'll convert it into text, which will then tell you, like, it'll speak it to you, right? So like you could ask the question, like, upload a document, and then ask, what is the total cost amount of the bill? Yeah. And it will be able to kind of tell you what the amount is. Is that what you're describing?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Exactly. You could do this with the Envision glasses as well, right? In fact, a lot of people who use the Envision glasses, what they do is they go to a restaurant. And earlier, and this has been something that it's an unintended consequence of putting this stuff out. That's also one of the more beautiful things, is you think people are going to be using it to do X, Y, Z, and then people just do completely different things with it that surprises you. And one of the things that really surprised us was, just the act of scanning a menu card and making a choice by yourself at a restaurant is a big deal for blind or low vision people. It's the simple act of ordering food that makes a big difference. And we've had so many people across different age groups just say, now I can sit at a restaurant, I can scan the menu with the glasses, and I can say, okay, tell me what the vegetarian appetizers are on the menu, and then the glasses will just rattle off all the vegetarian appetizers. Or you could say, hey, what's the cost of the red wine, and then you can decide whether you want to order it or not, right? And that level of empowerment, it seems like a very, very small thing, but to do that to have that in your everyday life as you go about work and life is so nice. It's for a lot of people that's one of the big use cases for this particular feature, just being able to scan a menu card and say, okay, today I don't feel like eating vegetarian, can you just tell me all the meat options and then become a carnivore, and that's totally fine. It works. You could do that if you want to, and you don't have to ask the person sitting next to you. You don't have to call the waiter and ask him to explain this to you. You could do it by yourself.
Yeah, and those small things add up, in terms of peace of mind or mental health. Like you want to be as independent as possible. So even being able to look at the menu yourself without having to ask someone next to you, as a grown adult, is a nice thing.
It is. It is. I think those really, really, really small moments, kind of add up to this word called independence. This big word called independence. It's really what people are doing with technology like this, and I think that's one of the main reasons why I'm so excited about this era that we live in, and I consider myself really, really lucky to be at this moment in time, because this was not possible 10 years or 5 years before, and there have been so many blind or low vision people who've been craving for this kind of technology, and we have an opportunity to go ahead and deliver it to them.
Yeah, it's very exciting. A question about the glasses, just for those who are curious. So like, it tells you, is there a speaker on the glasses that will tell you, or so that's how you can hear it? Is there options, like, could you connect it to like headphones if you wanted to? What are the options available to hear what the glasses are telling you?
So the glasses do have a speaker. So there's a speaker located right next to your right ear. And the speakers are loud enough for you to hear them, but not too loud that people around you can hear them, right? So it is something that a lot of people just use by default, either indoors or outdoors. That's one thing. And people can also connect the glasses to a pair of headphones, like your AirPods, or a lot of in the blind and low vision community, people don't like to block out their ears because that's an important source of information for them. So what they do is they use these bone conduction headphones. So you can pair them with bone conduction headphones as well. And we also worked a lot with different manufacturers to make sure that these glasses are also compatible with Bluetooth hearing aids. So if someone who has them, especially older people, they do have these Bluetooth hearing aids, and they can go ahead and pair the glasses with those as well. So there are all these different ways where you can get information out of the glasses. You can also connect these glasses to a Braille display, right? And get your response in Braille. So that's also something that we worked on, and that's available for people to use as well. Yeah. So there's a lot of options to get information out, and what you can also do is, I really like this Apple philosophy of just connecting all your devices, and what we ended up doing was you can, pair your Envision app with the Envision glasses, and let's say you scan a document on the Envision glasses, and you can just export that with a single tap over to the Envision app, read it on your phone, or just export that from the Envision app to anything else. Just want to send it to somebody, or you want to save it as an attachment on your phone. All of that is totally possible because everything works together in a way.
Yeah. It kind of goes to what you kind of just alluded to, but it's the best time to be blind on planet Earth, where you have this tech to kind of work with. You have the age-old tools, such as the cane, but now you have some other tools that you can add into, your list. You can incorporate the Envision glasses in the app. While using the cane, and then you don't have to use your phone like you described. But if going back to the app, I messed around with it a little bit myself, but you can do the describe scene. With your phone as well with the free app, because I did it in my room. I pointed it over to where my dog was sleeping. And I asked what it saw, and it's a dog sleeping on a bed, and I was like, "Whoa, that was crazy."
I think that's just the tip of the iceberg. We're currently working on an update which will be, in my humble opinion, at least like 10 times better than what it does right now. I think by the time this is out, I'm hoping we're able to go ahead and put that out on the app as well for people to try. So that's also been crazy, because I thought that kind of technology where you can get like detailed, accurate descriptions of your surroundings, that's also at least 5-10 years away, right? And being able to ask questions, like chatting with the AI about your surroundings and asking specific questions like, oh, can you tell me what is the specific breed of my dog, or can you tell me what the color of my or my floor is, for example, right? Those kind of things, again, I thought, was like 5 years, 10 years away, and someone like an Apple or a Google is going to do that and stuff. But again, over the last like 10 months, this whole field has taken off. And again, with the Envision glasses today, you can not only ask questions of a document you scan, you can take a picture of anything around you and you can ask it questions about the world in general, and it gives rich, detailed answers to those. We're actually using OpenAI's GPT-4 vision on the glasses to be able to answer those questions. So it's using the very best, AI out there today in the world to be able to answer those questions. And of course, sometimes it does say things that are not there, and we try and we have some techniques, some engineering techniques that we use to try and reduce those hallucinations, which tend to happen quite a bit. But for the most part, it works really, really well. It's mind-blowingly, detail-oriented, and it's accurate to the point of, you could use it to ask questions of pretty much anything. I've taken this to India and I've asked questions about a board that was put up in a very remote village in India, and it still picked up the right script. It picked up the language, and it gave me a description of what was there. So it's pretty close to being an actual human. I'm not even exaggerating,
Yeah, it's kind of like, reminds me of a quote that Elon Musk said, that humans are basically cyborgs at this point with our phones, because we have access to our phones. Kind of make us cyborgs because we always have them with us, and we have all this information on our phone, cameras, and, especially if you add like tech into a wearable pair of glasses. Yeah. Now we are really becoming cyborgs.
No, it's so true. I think he was talking about how throughout history, humans have just been trying to get access to information faster and faster. Initially it was like through language, and then people figured out how to write, and then people figured out telegrams and how to send that stuff across oceans, and then the mobile phones came, and then now we've got the glasses, and in the future we probably have chip implants in our head, which will become very normal maybe in the next 20-30 years to do something like that, and then you can just think about stuff, and you get and you get that information in front of you. It's crazy. And I think in all of these things, like I said, the people who tend to benefit the most are the ones with disabilities, and accessibility is the biggest benefiter of all of these technologies that come out, and I think and that's why I feel, at Envision, the primary focus is just on accessibility. Like, how can we take this technology and just make it more useful for people with disabilities? And that's going to be our focus, because that's where all of these technologies have a direct impact on,
Definitely.
Yeah.
1,000%. And is there like we mentioned, like 2 years ago when we talked, a lot has changed from then to now. Do you see that pace of technology getting faster? Is it gonna, do you think it's just gonna get like way more advanced, way faster, or do you think it's gonna plateau at all, or do you think it's gonna slow down, or what's your thoughts on the pace of where this tech is going?
I think it's not going to slow down for sure, at least for the next year or so. It's definitely not going to slow down. I think the genie is out of the bottle, as they say.
Okay.
And there's no putting it back. I think when ChatGPT came out in November, that's the moment in history that truly changed everything. So what is happening right now is two things. One is it's becoming more and more accurate. It's starting to tackle human, I would say human level intelligence problems, right? So AI is starting to get really good at reasoning. So you could like, if I were to say, hey, Lance, can you make pasta for me? You probably have, in your head, you've got all these 20 different steps. Like, okay, I need to go to the grocery store. And when I go to the grocery store, I need to pick this type of pasta and this type of sauce and these vegetables. And, you think step by step really quickly. Until a few months ago, until like about 3-4 months ago, these AI models weren't able to do that. And over the last 3-4 months, there's been research that has come out. It's very, very promising, that allows that gives the AI an ability to reason complex tasks step by step, exactly like how we humans do. Right. So if I were to tell the AI, go ahead and, get me the top 5 movies in my area. Right. Earlier you had to click or a better example is, give me the top 5 things I can do in New York City as a vegetarian who's trying to lose weight, and has a dog. So now earlier you had to sit and do Google search, you had to click on a bunch of links, you had to read through information, you got to build that list by yourself. But now an AI is able to do all of that for you, right? At a human capacity almost, where it's able to understand what your question is, make a step-by-step plan for how it needs to execute that, go out into the internet and then do those things for you, and then just give you back the answer. Right. So that is what's happening, and that the speed of that improvement is crazy. That's one thing. I think the second thing that's happening is, there is a technical term called latency, which is essentially basically the speed at which you get back information. Right. You ask, for example, ChatGPT a question today, and it takes a good 10-15 seconds to respond to that. 3 weeks ago, there was a company that, came out. It's called Grok. What they offer is basically they, instead of 10-15 seconds, they take less than half a second to answer the question. Right.
Wow.
They've built special chips that can run AI much more faster than anybody else on planet Earth. And, that's incredible. Like, you can ask it to write a 500-word essay about Amsterdam, for example, and it answers in less than half a second, whereas your ChatGPT or your Gemini, they take about 30 seconds to go ahead and write the whole thing out, right? So that latency, the speed at which you get back information, that is reducing like crazy. It's just outlandish what you can do. And so because of that, you can start having real conversations with AI, and AI can go out there into the world, do the work that you ask it to do, and give you back the information or give you back the result, right? So that is going to unlock probably a huge boon, for people who are blind and low vision. They don't have to go through broken websites. They don't have to go through inaccessible PDFs. They can just ask a question, and they can have the AI execute tasks for them and get back answers.
Wow. Yeah, that is going to be a game changer.
Yeah.
Because, there's a lot of like you got to have websites that are ADA compliant.
Yeah.
And they're still kind of tough to navigate for people with low vision. And a lot of websites just are not, especially more independently created websites. So this will be able to pull ChatGPT will be able to help kind of dive into all those kind of inaccessible websites and then make it accessible basically. Yeah. Which is going to be huge, because I've always kind of thought this way, and it's kind of unfortunate, but the world is kind of inaccessible.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of ways that the government is trying to step in and make things more accessible and but I've always kind of had this assumption that it's going to take tech companies, they're going to have to crack the code. And like, if people want image descriptions, for example, I think it's kind of absurd to expect people to type up image descriptions.
Yeah.
It's a nice thought. I think if you have the time to do it, you should do it. And I try to do it when I can. But I've also have come to just face the facts that it's going to be a lot better when, AI can do the image description for you. And that way it's available on every post and not just from the people who are willing to type it, and that's when it's going to be a real game changer, because then every post has image descriptions or alt text available due to tech kind of helping. So I kind of think like you can create a structure that kind of encourages accessibility, but unless it's easy to do via tech, I don't think most people are going to do it. So I think AI is kind of solving that problem. It's kind of bridging the gap between the two.
No, you're totally right. I think that is the main founding idea behind Envision. When we started Envision about 6-7 years ago, we kind of asked the question, what does independence mean for people who are blind and low vision? And simply, it just means access to that information. There is all kinds of visual information around us. Like, I can stand at a train station and I can be bombarded with ads and information about which platforms I need to go to, which trains are leaving, which ones are delayed. I know which shops are there. I walk into a shop, a grocery store at one of the railway stations, and I have all of this information around me. But for a blind or low vision, it's completely inaccessible. It's like they're totally shut off from that information around them. And you're right, it's impossible to add image descriptions everywhere. It's impossible to add braille displays on every single bit of information in the world. And AI is basically this bridge, like you said, right, between the world as it is and the world as it should be. That's the way we see AI. It's just a tool, a bridge that allows a visually impaired person to kind of cross from the inaccessible space over to an accessible space. And, I think and just giving them access to this information faster is basically what Envision is working on next. I think this revolution in AI also has huge implications on the way we have used software forever, right? Like, if you think about from the time you were born and you sat in front of a computer till this point, the way you interact with computers have remained the same. You point at something, you click on it, something happens. You move your mouse to one place, you click on a button, something happens. You have menus that you click on and you keep going inside menus. That's basically the way software has worked. But now with conversational AI, where you can just have conversations and have you execute things on your behalf, you could just literally have no buttons at all. You could just, completely get rid of buttons and just have a conversation with AI. And that's basically what we've been building at Envision. Over the last 6 months, we've been building on the next iteration of Envision, where there are no buttons, there are no menus, there is literally nothing but you and a screen with a camera feed, and you can just ask it questions like, hey, read this document for me. And then the AI would actually go ahead and understand that it's looking at a document, pick out the right document, reading AI within, its suite of tools, and then just go ahead and put it to use. It's like you talking to a manager, and the manager just, figuring out the right employee to pick for the job, and then just picks the employee and puts it to work, right? That's what we've been working on. We've not given it a name yet. I mean, internally, we're just calling it Envision Assistant, but that's the iteration that I'm working on right now, and most excited about that, iteration. And when it comes out, it'll be huge for people who are visually impaired, because they don't have to deal with menus and buttons and stuff like that. It makes a big difference.
Yeah, it just kind of streamlines it,
Yeah. And it's great for like older people as well, because again, for older people, they don't want to be able to learn how to use like a computer or a phone, because it's just too complicated for them. Like, they've got all these buttons and apps and, stuff like that. And that's just too complex for older people. What if you could just, let them have a conversation like how they have with a human being, right? That makes a huge difference.
Yeah, 1,000%. So, all right. So I was going to ask what's next for Envision, but that seems to be, the answer to that question. It sounds very exciting.
Yeah.
And I think what's happening now is kind of like people are dipping their toes into the AI world, the ChatGPT world. Some people are very excited about it, like you are very excited about it. I'm excited about it. But some people are hesitant or maybe scared of it and how it's going to change things. Because I think in a way, you're 100% right. It's going to change everything. And some people are scared of change. But for people with visual impairments, you're low vision or you're legally blind or fully blind, whatever it may be, this type of technology, while it may be scary to the general public, you may hear this information and, be over the moon about it because you're thinking about all the ways you could use it. So I think, general society needs to keep that in mind, that AI is going to benefit some people more than others, but at the end of the day, it can benefit everyone. And I know there needs to be some sort of structure on it, that I know that there's going to be. It's still in like the early enough days to where I don't know exactly. Some people might use it for bad. I know there has to be some sort of structure to it, but definitely, in the ways that it's being used for good, such as how Envision is using it, it's kind of like the sky is the limit. It's very exciting to hear about.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you what your thoughts are about the people who are a little bit nervous about AI, and how could you kind of ease their opinion on that?
I think first of all, it's a very fair point. The people who are skeptical about AI, they all have very, very fair arguments. They all believe that, use of AI at the workplace or just broadly in society, it's not always going to be beneficial, or it could, be largely bad for society as a whole. I think there are some merits to that. I don't want to dismiss those people as doomers or whatever. I think everyone has a fair say when it comes to this. And to be honest, even the ones who are really optimistic about AI, people like me, we are just looking at one side of the story, right? We're looking at the side of the story that serves us best. And I think there are lives at stake, livelihoods at stake that are going to change with AI. I think what I would tell people in general is, I would say you should try these tools out for yourself, right? Especially if you're working at a job where you're currently doing any kind of knowledge work. You could be a writer, you could be a copywriter, you could be like someone designing graphic tools, images or graphics for your company. You could be any kind of person. If you're doing any kind of knowledge work, your work would be impacted by AI, and there is no way to stop that from happening, right? Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but definitely the week after, right? And I think the best way to really equip yourself for that wave is to adapt these tools into your workflow from the very beginning, right? For a long time, programmers thought their jobs were the most safest jobs in the entire universe, and every other job could be automated, but you still need programmers, and even that's not the case today. Programmers are also having their jobs going to be changed entirely by AI, at risk, sort of. And if you're anyone doing that kind of knowledge work, it's essential that you accept AI into your life and look at it as a tool, like how the internet was a tool, how Photoshop was a tool, or how any other software out there is just a tool. AI is ultimately just a tool. And the sooner you learn to incorporate it into your workflow, the more better prepared you would be for any changes that might come in the future with regards to AI itself. Right. For example, at Envision, we all use AI assisted coding tools to actually write code at Envision. Code over the last couple of months, that I have worked on and shipped has been written entirely by me. A good chunk of the code has been checked and even written by AI itself. Right. And all I'm doing is I'm asking the AI to write the code, and I'm actually just checking if the code is doing what it should do and if it complies to what I want it to comply, right? And that kind of an AI is only going to get better from here on out, right? So incorporating those tools into your life and learning how to use them and getting comfortable with them and understanding the limitations of those tools can actually really help you, in just coming to better terms with AI itself. And I think I also agree with you, there needs to be some kind of regulation or some kind of guidelines or something that will help us use AI more responsibly in society, right? Especially things like, AI that can generate images or manipulate images or generate videos for you. Those are all like kind of scary because, you could do anything you want to. And our democracies and our societies are at stake. So I think it's important to be responsible. How? Nobody really knows the answer to that, to be honest. We're all trying to figure it out. That's both the reassuring and the scary part of the whole thing. So yeah, we'll have to see.
Yeah, I think it's just growing pains because it happens so fast.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that
True.
a lot, it kind of jumped. It kind of like jumped over a lot of
True.
typical kind of red tape that would happen. It just kind of bypassed it all because it happened so fast. And now you're basically having to work backwards to kind of figure out how to regulate it.
Yeah.
I think it will get resolved at some point, but I think the AI is just moving really fast and it's hard to keep up with, I think.
True. It's crazy, especially if you're on Twitter. Like it's nuts, like I have friends who just tell me, hey, don't look at Twitter for like a week, because you see Twitter, you feel like you're forever drowning in new AI stuff that's coming out, and it's crazy. Yeah. It's the most happening field in the entire world at this point.
Yeah, I would like to get more, to dive deeper and to use Chat GPT as a resource more. My job is a video editor. So I'm curious how, AI is going to play into that landscape. And I'm sure everyone else listening is probably worried about how AI is going to impact their career and landscape. But I agree with you that it's best to use it as a tool and to go ahead and get familiar with it now. That way you can kind of grow with it.
Yeah.
Versus get left behind, and other people who have been using it as a tool since it came out, they're going to have a huge advantage over you. And then you're going to get, I hate to say it, but you're likely to get left behind.
Yeah.
If you have a job that's, can utilize AI in that way.
That's true. I actually also, one other thing that you will realize when you start using these tools is that a lot of what you hear is hype, right? It's actually when you start using these tools, you realize like how much in its infancy they all are. Like we constantly hear about, ChatGPT is going to replace writers, or this, DALL-E is going to make people who design graphics obsolete. It's not going to be the case. I think the nature of your work will change, but you realize these tools are still super early into their usefulness, that it will take a few years for them to get useful. And like you rightly mentioned, it's important for you to grow along with those tools.
So yeah, if you want to put that into, if you want to relate that into how Envision is, the tech for Envision's only going to change as the years goes on. Just like the eyeglasses themselves have changed, where you're able to get more frame options. The camera's probably going to evolve, probably going to get smaller. There's probably going to be different ways. Like you said, it may evolve into a microchip in the same way, Neuralink is kind of changing things. So yeah, if you were to start working with AI technology like Envision today, you're going to be able to adapt with it and stay up to date with how to adapt to it, versus putting it off. And then you're going to have to learn all this tech further down the road. I'm not saying that you can't do that, but it might work to your advantage as someone who is, with a visual impairment, to go ahead and kind of dive head first and to kind of start getting familiar with this side of adaptive technology,
Yeah, no, that's very true. I think Envision will hopefully become the standard for assistive software in the coming years, and that's what we're kind of aiming towards, right? Because one of the things we're trying to do with Envision is trying to make it available on as many platforms, as many devices as possible. So 2 weeks from now, we're going to be rolling out Envision on the desktop. So Envision is going to be available for people who use Windows, Mac, or Linux. It's going to be available as a browser extension for people to install on their browsers and use it. It's going to be available for almost everybody you can think of, right? On all platforms. If we already have an Apple Vision Pro app that people are using, we have one for the Quest. So it's like everywhere. And, we eventually want Envision to become sort of the standard for assistive tech. And I think, a lot of people who are a bit apprehensive about AI should give Envision a shot, because it's the easiest way to get acquainted with AI and how to use it. For a lot of people who believe that they're not as productive as they can be in the workplace, especially blind or low vision people, I think Envision is a huge productivity boost for them as well. So I think that's basically how I see Envision's role, like just being a huge productivity boost for blind and low vision people at the workplace.
Definitely. Yeah. And if those people who are more interested in the backstory of Envision and why it was created and kind of the story behind it, the driving force behind Envision, you can hear about that in the first episode we did. I'll have a link to that in the episode description too, if you want to go back and learn more about the story of Envision, because that's a really neat thing to learn about too. In this episode, I wanted to just kind of focus on, what has changed since last time we talked. But yeah, if you're craving more about the story of Envision, definitely go check that episode out too. And with that, I want to ask you, is there anything else you wanted to promote? Is there anything else you wanted to put on people listening's radar, about Envision?
Yeah, I think, I said everything I wanted to say, to be honest. I'm very, very excited for the future in general. And I think anyone who wants to give Envision a shot should just go to our website, letsenvision.com. That's letsenvision.com. And, check out the Envision app. We've got the Envision glasses where people can request a free demo of the Envision glasses as well. So do go check out what we're working on. And like I said, we're going to have Envision on the desktop soon. We're going to have Envision as an assistant that can work across devices. So if you've not tried Envision, now is the best time to do so.
Yeah. And I'll have links to everything that was just discussed in the episode description. So if you want to just click there's quick links to kind of access everything we talked about. So if you want to download the app, you can do that there. You can check out the website. There's a lot to dive into. But yeah, go ahead and get familiar with Envision, because they're not going anywhere. They're just getting started, and I'm excited to see where Envision goes. And I'm rooting for Envision because they're changing the landscape for people in the low vision community, and it's nice to have companies that are so involved in trying to help communities like the blind, low vision community, because it's so easy for a tech company to just try to create something that's more for the general masses, because that's going to be more of a profitable approach. So I appreciate the I guess exclusivity of how much you're just focusing on and helping the blind, low vision communities. I just appreciate that. I'm sure a lot of other people do, but I wanted to tell you that myself.
Oh, thank you so much, Lance. And I think, even something like accessibility can be incredibly profitable, because, it's a niche that no one actually cares so much about. And I think, a big misconception that people tend to have, especially employers, is that when they hire a blind or a low vision person, they will have to, put up with productivity levels that are not on par with someone who's sighted, or they have to they have to spend more per employee in terms of getting them tools that they need. And that might have been the case 10 years ago, but I think with tools like Envision, it's incredibly easy and far more cheaper, I would say, for an employer to be able to use those tools to help a person who is blind or low vision to actually be more productive. And I think that is sort of the biggest market for us as we step into the future, and I'm hoping that we're able to crack that. And so thanks for having me on the podcast. I hope to come back sooner than 2 years, and hopefully and hopefully we're going to be coming out with some really, really amazing stuff over the next few months, and I'm happy to share all of that with you.
At this rate, you're going to have to bring you on every month to talk about all the changes that are going on.
Yeah, no, I think once every 6 months should be enough for another 1 hour episode.
All right. But yeah, thanks for taking the time to come on and kind of share all this with everyone listening. It's very exciting. And, that's another thing, you're right. It's not only going to impact people's day-to-day lives, like how they, cooking or reading a letter or a document they need access, but it's going to help them, translate, and it's going to translate into career opportunities, into job opportunities, and it's going to, provide a lot of opportunities for the BVI community. So that's also another huge element to all of this. You're completely right about that. So that's very exciting. But thanks for coming on, Karthik. And like I said, I'll keep in touch with you. And I look forward to following Envision, where you guys go.
Yes, thank you so much, Lance, and looking forward to coming onto the show again. And congratulations on all the cool stuff that you've been putting out. We've been keeping a tab of it here at Envision, so I hope to see a lot more of that in the future.
Thank you. Take care, man.
Take care.